Welcome to Market Buzz. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician and host of the Market Buzz. Each show, we do a deep dive into different industries using weekly charts to see what is happening on a long timeline. Please follow me on Twitter at Schnell Investor, and you can also find my blogs and articles on gregschnell.com as well as StockCharts.com. Lots going on out here. We had quite a wild finish to Tuesday. But I'm going to focus in on the utilities rather than get into the I'll call it nitty-gritty of the intra-week movement. What I want to cover off is a lot of the utilities are hitting new highs, and I want to walk through why that might be. So I think it's part of the new energy needs, and when we cover off the renewable energy, I did a big presentation last week, hopefully you caught it, called The Move to Electric. And if not, I think it's an hour well spent. Hopefully there's some value there for you. But the one thing I wanted to say is through all of this move to electric, there's going to be a big demand for power. And utilities should be part of that. So we need to be paying attention to these companies. And so I've got some ideas for putting them on our radar. If you're interested in more about renewable energy, there's the move to electric, which includes renewable energy, solar, wind, that kind of stuff. You can find lots out on the website, on my website, gregschnell.com, under the tab for electric vehicles. And if you're looking for more of my presentations, there will be one on the Summit 365 next Wednesday. And I'll be doing the Canadian Technicians Day on October 17th. That one is also very special this is the Wealth 365 next Wednesday. And then for the CSTA.org presentation, one of the things that's happening there is I've got two great technicians that I would like to share their expertise with you if you're interested. And you could go to CSTA.org and register for the Canadian Technical Analyst Day. And I've got Tom McClellan speaking there. He's going to talk about McClellan oscillators, advanced decline, and some of his cycles that he uses to help kind of estimate where future turns might be in the market. I think that stuff's kind of interesting. And then the second component of that is Andrew Cardwell. And Andrew probably did as much work or a lot of work on the relative strength indicator created by Wells Wilder. So with that, I think those two gentlemen are going to be fantastic. There's also Barry Powley, who's a CFA, and he's the head of the Calgary chapter for the CSTA, but he's also working as a portfolio manager, so he's got some insights. Dwight's going to talk about setups. That's Dwight from gregschnell.com. And then myself, I'm going to have lots to say as well. So there are 5 speakers, all packed in a relatively tight bundle. And hopefully you find some information there. Okay, let's jump over into the charts. So first of all, what I wanted to do is just say, if you were ever looking for a group of stocks, and in this case, if the group is Canadian Utilities or the group is the U.S. Utilities, you would just literally go to New Scan, start this, and you're going to go down to the bottom here, and you're just going to pick whatever utility sector, and in this case, conventional gas, multi-utility, or water. You would just pick one, and then when you click the add button, it would put the group up here. So in this case, I've searched for the group is the utility sector, and I ran this scan. Now, I've since done some data modification, so I'm just going to leave it there. But that's how you could quickly go get a whole group of the utilities if you were interested. Okay, so here's U.S. utilities, and I've got them divided by the types of utilities you just saw. And this is conventional electricity, and obviously that's a big component. And then we have gas distribution. And I want to talk specifically about some of these in here. These companies, so they start around our number 480, so I want to get back to those. And the reason I want to cover them off is they also have, they don't have an SCTR ranking, but they're still interesting to go check out. So that's good. We're probably not going to cover gas distribution today. This Brookfield Infrastructure Corp is the only one with a scooter ranking that's quite high. And then So I want to focus on the electric side today, just to kind of make that clear. And then there's a few of these multi-utilities that we could go look at. Most of them have an average sort of ranking for the SCTR. If you're above 25 and below 75, you're just kind of in the sweet spot, basically tracking the rest of the companies in your peer group. And then water is the same thing. So only one up in the 70s, and this one had one up in the high 60s. This Brookfield Infrastructure is a nice looking chart in gas distribution. But when we go to conventional electricity, we've got quite a few ringing the bell way up here. And so I want to point out those charts, and hopefully you'll find them as interesting as I do. So to do that, we want to jump in. And this Vivint Solar is literally, started to run in June and is continuing to rocket up here. Chart looks pretty nice. Some sort of a pullback would be a nicer entry. I'm going to just go into the view all mode here, and we can cover these off very quickly. So here's Clearway Energy, and this one just broke out Friday and Monday of this week, starting to take off and really push higher. Chart looks great. It was an upslope anyway. Now it's started to do some acceleration. Here's Brookfield Renewable Partners, and this one broke out about a week ago and started to run off. That's the reason I'm starting to cover these industry groups for you, is all of a sudden the charts are starting to break out. Here's AES, and it looks very close to being ready, just kind of pausing sideways, and we'll see if it can get a spark and start to go higher. Atlantica Yield, and this one is getting back to try and break out to its prior highs, so that would be nice. Spark Energy, this one's got just a gentle downslope, and we'd like to start to see that soar. It was kicking up nicely on Monday, and then on Tuesday had started to move higher, and then on the news of no stimulus plan, it rolled back. So I still like all of these, not all of these charts, but I like looking at these charts to see which ones are starting to work. Here's NextEra Energy, and this one looks like it really wants to start to take off. Ticker symbol NEE. Algonquin Power and Utilities Corp. This one just did a moonshot for the last week from $14 to $15.50. Nice little 10% move in a week. And ticker symbol AQN. Brookfield Infrastructure Partners. This is just a gently sloping up chart. I don't want to say whether or not it's going to be able to break out, but I just find it interesting. This one was doing, same sort of thing, and then all of a sudden just started to take off. All of these are involved in trying to get different types of power going, of course. So XL Energy, this one's very close to breaking out to new highs here. So as we go, anytime you're breaking out to new 52-week highs, that's pretty bullish. Circling in on Eversource Energy, this one, starting to break out to new 6-month highs. Scooter ranking just moving back above 50, but a breakout here above 6-month highs, that looks pretty good considering what the rest of the group wants to do. Public Service Enterprise, I really like this one here, sitting right back in kind of the range it was in before. I think the question is, does it have anything new that's going to start kicking it up? And that would be something we'd have to probably go do a little bit more research just to see if it's actually got some potential spark. But we should start to see it in the price flow as well. Looking at American Electric Power, sitting right here at $89, trying to get through this $90 level. Again, new 6-month highs, always a good place to look. Here's PPL Corp, and this one, same sort of issue, right? Just trapped under the 200-day moving average and trying to turn higher. I didn't go into all of my indicators, so maybe I should do that right now. So up at the top, I have the SCTR ranking, which is like a sports ranking for stocks, the StockCharts technical ranking. And what we're looking for here is when it's outperforming, when it's behaving better than 75% of the stocks, which is where this blue line is, that's usually a pretty strong indication of a strong stock. And that first one, Vivint Solar, clearly up and to the right, and a very strong scooter ranking. The second indicator is talking about relative strength compared to the S&P 500, and it mimics this scooter ranking somewhat, but the scooter ranking is much more responsive, and it will kind of give you real ranges to go in, whereas this one will just keep moving up and down, and is all you're looking for here. In this purple area is new 3-month highs, 6-month highs, 1-year highs. Just the stock is starting to outperform the S&P 500. So anytime we're talking about relative strength, we commonly talk about it compared to the S&P 500, and this has been a bit of a downtrend here. If it was starting to break out here, that would be bullish, and you can see the scooter ranking has been behaving in around the 30% level, so most of its peers are doing better than it is, about 70% of them, and now we're up to the 50% level. Can it start to break out and get into that top half? And when it does that, that was a nice run here in late 2019, so perhaps it can start on that road again. Other indicators obviously are the volume, and I've got a moving average set up on here as well. And down at the bottom is the PPO indicator, and that's one of my favorites for momentum. We want to see momentum starting to turn up, and this is just starting to do that. If we could start to break out to higher highs here, this momentum indicator would start to run, and that's usually very bullish like we saw back in here. The COVID wave was a little steep on here, so it makes the upside look not very big. Normally, that's a pretty good wave. So looking at some other stocks here, here's Entergy Corporate Holdings. And one of the things on this particular chart, again, you see this 6-month horizontal, and it's just starting to push through. The downtrend in the scooter ranking is starting to break out. Same thing on the relative strength on the S&P 500. So if we just go annotate this, we would draw a trend line down here, and we can see that's starting to break out. So that's pretty good. Normally on the scooter ranking, I don't really draw trend lines this way, but I don't mind looking at the levels. And one of the things I like when it has been worn out down in the bottom area, when it comes out of being below 25 and starts to accelerate, that can be a nice place to get on board as well. So we've got horizontal support and resistance hanging in here, call it 105, and it's just starting to push through that. So this is a good looking place to try and find an entry. Volume starting to improve, and the momentum indicators just turned up and gone above zero, which is usually something more bullish. So I like that. Let's just save that. So when we look at these charts, again, one of the things I start to see is different patterns or the same patterns setting up across the industry. And then when the whole industry is starting to break out, that's really helpful. And again, I think one of the big drivers going on here is with all of these government initiatives towards electric vehicles without upgrading the grid seems radical to me. But anyway, they're all apparently they think the power is just going to come out of the air somehow. Anyway, all of these power companies, I think, are getting set up for a big thrust higher. And this one had a really nice run going before COVID. And so if it can start kicking it up again, that to me looks like a pretty good place to get on board. Ticker symbol SSEZY. So trying to turn up here, but in general, the chart's a little sloppier. It did break out, pull back quite hard for 2 months, and now trying to rally again. I don't like it as much. The other chart looked more constructive. This Pinnacle, I guess it's done the same thing here. We're just getting back above this horizontal level 82. Need to see that try and break out. Here's Southern Company, and again, a lot of these are just starting to push above their 200-day moving average, and you can see a lot of them were trapped under there as I've flipped through the charts. This one, Fortis, pretty big company. I was out in the middle of the mountains in BC, and a big windstorm had come up and taken down power lines all up and down a major area of a mountain valley that we were in, and they were trying to get in there to reassemble the power connections after the trees had fallen over and knocked them down, and they must have been cutting down hundreds. But anyway, very big company. Trying to rock here, starting to push to the upside again. And it had a nice big uptrend going before, and I think it's just about getting ready to kick this one up again. Alliant Energy, horizontal resistance right in here around $55. Same idea. Can it start to run? Looking at DTE Energy, this one's run up above its 200-day moving average and just sitting on it. I don't like it as much because the stock wasn't really trending up before. So it doesn't mean it won't start to, but I'd really want to start to see some catalysts changing the behavior of the chart. Looking in on Ormat Technologies, this is pretty much a downtrend, but I will say that this trend line looks like it's breaking, so that's usually one of the things we want to start to look for is a break of the downtrend. So this week that was a nice push, and we had a break in the momentum downtrend and a break in the relative strength downtrend that's been going on for call it 6 months. So perhaps we're starting to fire up here. When we're looking for these things, again, getting the scooter ranking moving back above the 25 level from oversold, that can start to rejuvenate interest in the stock. So while it's really underperforming, nobody wants to own it. Once it starts turning back up, that might be a nice place to catch it. Okay, Public Services, New Mexico. Again, you see this horizontal pattern all the way through. So one of the points I'd like to stress on is that when you're in an industry and you start to see stocks behaving stronger than the pattern, that's really good. But you should also see typical patterns through the industry as they gyrate higher or lower. Perhaps it's based on whatever, a commodity price or something like that. But we start to see all the charts behaving the same. Some will have a little better slope to them, or they might have had a better slope prior to the COVID experience, and now all of a sudden they're starting to break back out again. I think as economic demand starts to improve, these charts could start to break out as well. So I want to pay particular attention to them. I think, as I said before, that they're getting to a place where all of the charts are starting to break out of some sort of a little consolidation area or consolidation pattern. And as they start to break out, that can be a pretty bullish place to get on board. Again, this one had a nice general uptrend, and then it's been waffling sideways since COVID. I don't think that's a problem, but it would be nice if it could start to get back on that uptrend and work its way higher. Again, one of the other nice parts of the dividend world, usually these utilities pay a pretty good one. I did not post the dividends percent rate on these charts. If you ever want to do that, let me just show you that. If you go to edit chart settings, and this isn't very sophisticated, this isn't going in and going through their annual reports. It's just saying this is the last amount they paid out. They pay it quarterly, and so they'll take that number and multiply it by 4 and say this is how much the annual dividend is. So in this case, 3.76. Again, by adding this full quote box, so that's this little white area with all the data in the top, and if I go down to the bottom here, you just click this full quote box, and that's how you get that to show up. So click it and then hit update, and that'll give you the chart or that table of information. Okay, let's go back to this page here. Okay. So again, a lot of these have that pattern. I think the most important thing for me is looking a little farther left and just making sure that they did have the uptrend going before. If they were sideways before, I'm not expecting them to be any better coming out of COVID, but perhaps they will be. But it's always nice to be aware of these stocks as they start to change tempo. And as you might notice, everything's setting up on the right-hand side on the last bar on all of these charts, making it a more important place for us to get on board and check that out. So here's Korean Electric Power Company. That looks like a downtrend and probably something I'm not looking to get into. Here's PG&E. I think this is the California company that has had the issues with brownouts and that kind of thing. I think they're going to have an amazing amount of demand for electricity out there, and if this could start to turn up, that would be one of the first clues. Exelon Corp downtrending. I think this one also supplies power by nuclear, if I'm not mistaken. And so the stock is basically range trading here between 33 and 40. No real money to be made in the last 6 months. If it can start to turn higher, that would be helpful. MG&E Energy just stuck under the 200-day moving average. I want to go out now to just let me check something here. Yeah, to show you those charts in around that 480 level. So we're getting down towards the ones that do have a scooter ranking, and notice how the stocks are really starting to get weak because I've sorted them in order of the scooter ranking within their industry group. So 13.6, not very good, and you can see this is clearly in a downtrend. It doesn't look ready to revert. Hawaiian Industry, same thing. Evergy, choppy chart, really a big drop here, and now we're starting to base and trying to work back through that. It was in an uptrend before, but clearly this has been some pretty choppy times. Don't know what that announcement was. Enersys Americas, again, drifting lower on the right-hand side. Remember I mentioned that 480, so that's the chart we're coming up to. And what I want to show you is the change when the stock doesn't have a scooter ranking. Doesn't mean all stocks without scooter ranking are good. It's just normally we can go to that kind of group of stocks and just see if there's anything there as well. And the way they get a scooter ranking is either price has to be above a certain level, they have to be in a small cap, mid cap, large cap market cap level that is large enough for them to get a scooter ranking. Okay, so here's Portland General Electric, and you can just see really a downtrend going on here. Probably want to avoid that kind of thing. Now here's Sky Solar Holdings, and again, much like that Vivint Solar that we led off with, this thing's been really percolating. Was a $2 stock in May and is now an $8 stock, so 300%. Went all the way to $12 here just recently. So ran up, consolidated, perhaps it's ready to break out and keep going. So something to keep an eye on. Here's Southern Company. This stock IPO'd roughly a year ago, starting to get back through and starting to break out. So I don't know what their particular power offering is that's making the chart start to jump all of a sudden here on the right. Maybe it's solar, just the SOLN makes me wonder that. But perhaps it's getting ready to cook. So anyway, interesting to watch. Here's Azure Power Global, and again, we sorted it based on scooter ranking. They don't have one, so they're just all collected together. And then really nice looking stock starting to accelerate here. This one, TransAlta Corp, pretty much sideways so far, seeing the pattern of the rest of the electric utilities. And here's Dominion Energy, basically just straight sideways for a while. Southern Company, all of these different names. Southern Company, what was the other one called that was SOLN? Anyway, stocks just gyrating sideways, nothing really that attractive. Here's Vivo Power. This one's taken off to the upside. Another good looking name, probably worth checking out what they do. Perhaps it's in the renewable space. Brookfield Infrastructure, this one IPO'd just in April and it's been taken off nicely. Very strong chart. And I think Brookfield Infrastructure, this first one was in natural gas, if I'm not mistaken, for utilities. So I don't want to go through all of these other ones because they're just natural gas charts or natural gas related charts. So we'll just shoot down to another area here. Let's just keep winding to the bottom. And yeah, all these gas company charts just drifting bottom right. You can see how there's a significant slope to them, and now what we want to see obviously is that starts to improve and starts to turn higher. Atmos Energy. Okay, so Avista Corp, Nextera, this one starting to break out again. These are no scooter ranking, but would like to see this one go. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this one also has nuclear or uranium in it. And another Dominion Energy, different ticker symbol, lots going on in there. Another sideways company, American Waterworks. We're getting into the water utilities. The whole goal here is just to take the time to see how the different groups are starting to behave. And hopefully I've made that clear when we saw all of the conventional electricity patterns going sideways for the most part, and we saw the natural gas ones going down, and this American Waterworks is starting to turn up, so that's quite interesting. I also have a few Canadian utilities, and there's just a few of them, so we'll quickly hit them. just for the Canadian viewers. Some of these are traded on the US side as well. Boralex Power, this one's just been taken off, and 2 weeks ago started to break through 34. It made 40 already, so up 20% in kind of a few days. Canadian government started promising more renewable energy grants, so that could be starting these stocks to fire up. Here's Northland Power, really nice trend. Interjex Renewable Energy, again, taking off to the upside. TransAlta Renewables, anything with the word renewables, kind of hot, obviously. Superior Plus Corp, pretty much tracking sideways, nothing that interesting. Algonquin Power recently got the 10-day surge. Brookfield Infrastructure Partners, this one's working its way higher. This is the Canadian listing for the one that's in the US. Hydro One, big electric power supplier in Ontario, the largest populated province or state in Canada. So this one's just starting to break out. Capital Power starting to break out as well. And TransAlta Corp, pretty much sideways, nothing really there. Emera Corp, same idea, just grinding sideways. It wasn't a nice big uptrend before, so this one, if it could start to turn up, might be worthwhile paying attention. Here's Fortis, the Canadian listing for that same one that I had mentioned earlier. ATCO, of course, sitting right in here, just hiding under the 200-day moving average in Canadian utilities. They work with ATCO somehow. There's a relationship, so both charts look very similar. Just Energy, this one doesn't look like it has any energy to go higher at all. Okay, so with that, I want to cover off one more thing here. I just want to go over to YouTube. And from there, I want to put in StockCharts. And the idea being, I want to just jump into the StockCharts YouTube page and then show you the move to electric here for Market Buzz. And I don't really want the volume to start to play. But the idea being, if you haven't had time to walk through this, I think you'll find it's a pretty interesting read, and the majority of the world liked it, only one didn't, so not sure why that would be, but anyway, hopefully you find some ideas in there for yourself. Lastly, if you're interested in more about electric vehicles and that kind of thing, if you go to gregschnell.com and jump into that page, you'll find the EV newsletter sign up here, and we're also starting to build a small subscription service for $2 a week if you're interested, and you could sign in on the homepage for that. Actually, just go over there, and what we're looking for is down here, interested in electric vehicles, and you can get the information and also this StockCharts YouTube video set up for you. Have a listen. Anyway, if you're looking for some help finding some of the stocks breaking out in the area as they're breaking out or whatever, for $2 a week, we're going to put together that list every week for you and send it to you. So hopefully there's some good ideas. Okay, let's go back, and we've just got 1 minute, so I want to jump up to the top here, and I'm just going to put in SPY. And your dashboard, maybe let's go in here and do it that way. So obviously the stock market dropped quite hard on the news that there wasn't going to be a stimulus come, and we were with that put a lot of pressure very, very quickly. When we go look at the NASDAQ, it's pulling down to kind of the Friday low it had. So it was in a nice uptrend, then dropped on Friday, had a nice run up on Monday, starting to take off on Tuesday, and then obviously that quick reversal. So watching closely to see if these can keep going. They're trying to hold the 50-day moving average. Typically, October is a bit of a choppy month. I think that news was hit a little bit hard. We have seen this before. I think we've seen where the other trade negotiations were dropped, and then all of a sudden with days they were back on. So that might be a particular negotiating style that we've seen before.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.